Hello and welcome to Show Studio. This is our first menswear panel of Spring-Summer 2017. My name is Anastasia and I'm a London-based writer and I contribute to magazines like 052C, Dazed and Confused, ID and some others. And I'll be chairing panels this season, which I'm really excited about. I would really be excited to participate in discussions on menswear, particularly because I think when we talk about menswear, we don't only talk about fashion or clothes, we also talk about gender, masculinity, and all the complex processes which our society is going through at the moment. And it's even more exciting to start this season with Craig Green, the amazingly talented, one of the brightest London designers of the moment. And I have a great set of panelists for it today. And I would just let them to introduce themselves, starting from you, Willie.
Hello, I'm Willie Walters. I'm the Programme Director of Fashion at Central St Martin's and BA Course Director.
Hi, I'm Stavros Karelis and I'm the Buying Director of Machine A Store.
Hi, I'm Alexandre. I'm an artist and a writer and I'm the art editor of One Granary.
Amazing. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining today, particularly considering you came here straight from the show, which is more exciting. So Craig Green is definitely one of the designers everybody is talking about at the moment. And I mean, it's just the 8th collection of the brand, which is still quite a young brand, but he polarized opinions, he's loved, people cry at his shows, he's stocked at the best stores, including Stavros' store. So what I'm really interested in is where his vision is coming from. So we have a great honor to have Willie here, who has been at St. Martin's for 20 years.
Thank you for inviting me.
And who also taught Craig Green himself. So,
well, yes, yep. Craig studied first of all on the BA in fashion print and he graduated in 2010. Then he went on to the MA. Well, I'm not sure if he did print or not there, but anyway, he ended up with menswear with some print in it, leaving in 2012. And I mean, I'm really pleased for him that he's done so well since graduation because he is a really genuine person. You know, he is got no side to him, he's engaging, he absolutely loves what he does, he's a real artist. Before he came to St. Martin's, he actually was going to study painting. And I understand he went to the foundation and he hung around with some people who he really liked from fashion and he thought, okay, fashion and print, that's, you know, there's art there, there's artistry, there's drawing, there's all those skills and that's where he wanted to progress to.
So do you remember him from the days?
Oh, very well. Yeah. Really well.
So
yes.
what was like what he was doing?
Well, I really came across him in the final year because at that point the final year print was run by Natalie Gibson and Lindsay. God, I've forgotten her name. Sorry, I'm so embarrassed. I'll remember it in a minute. Okay, the wonderful Lindsay Taylor, that's it, from Scotland, who is and I worked with them on the design. And Craig was just amazing because he really wanted to do something that was outside of regular fashion, but for menswear. And, you know, it's interesting because he's really moved away from that in a way. Of course, there's all the wood, there's the construction, but then it was all about construction. And it was, if I think back to his collection, it was a bit like Dada meets Africa. He had extraordinary triangular shapes on the head, almost like bird cages over your head, lots of doweling hanging down, really bright, severe graphic colours, black, red and eau de Nil, and then the doweling, you know, the wood. And I think his father helped him to make a lot of those because his father was really good at carpentry and so he had his family all constructing kind of bird cages for the head. And it was, you know, it was a strong art piece, but that's what we encourage on the BA. And it was a real success on the catwalk. And then when he went to the MA, he moved on into something slightly more refined, obviously, as you would on the MA. So, you know, I'm really pleased to see in this show we just saw that some of the really rich colours he's brought back again, and very in an intricate pattern, but obviously in a much more wearable version.
Well, I think it's actually great to see that he sort of kept both of those things you mentioned.
Yeah.
Of course, the art is still there. I mean, maybe not in the kind of that shape of the wood from his debut collection, which he got so much polarized opinion upon. But it's definitely still his clothes works like art pieces. Yeah.
I mean, 100%. If and what I find like extremely smart with Craig is that obviously, you know, as the season's progressing and he sends down the catwalk the new collections, even if you don't see like all these amazing structures that he used to do in the previous seasons, you know, you still see them when he shoots his campaigns. I mean, he did like an iconic campaign, I think, with Nick Knight of Show Studio, you know, which I think everyone adored, and I think it was like extremely strong, such a strong imagery. So you see like all this structure there. Also, when you visit his website, you see that all the models have been photographed with these structures as well. So I think it's still something very close to him that he represents it in different ways. You know, it doesn't have always to be on a catwalk, but you know, he finds his
It becomes
ways
a motif,
yes,
doesn't
exactly,
it?
You know, to show
it surrounds the art pieces.
Exactly.
And I mean, you've got to sell.
Yeah.
If you're a designer, you've done 8 collections, you've got to sell, you've got to make money. You can't be producing art pieces
100%.
all the time.
Yes.
Sorry.
I think what's really exciting about him is that he's really managed to kind of translate the art of his like big structures into the clothes that are quite wearable. A lot of his trousers are like very easy to wear. They're modulable. They're kind of like meant for daily life, but they've really kind of like kept the sensibility, the ruggedness, and the fragility of the art pieces. I think that was a big challenge that makes them really exciting for me.
Yeah, and a lot of the padded pieces that have a slight sort of Chinese feel to them, they're cosy looking, aren't they? And you imagine if you just did up all the tape and they were complete, you could always lie in the street and sleep in them. You know, they're sort of cosy and lovely. And oh God, I just thought of something about Craig. When his year did a half-yearly presentation, they were a really lively bunch. They did a presentation of their pre-collection, and they got these they got street musicians in to play, who were from somewhere like Slovenia. They found them on Oxford Street because we were still in Charing Cross then, and they got them into our large tutorial room while all the models who were the students walked around with elections. And they were bloody noisy because they were meant to be street musicians, so they had sort of like Slovenian bagpipes, and the music was just blasting. But it was so lively, and that was very much kind of Craig's influence.
100%. And I also think that it's a collection where it really celebrates, you know, the unisex, the gender association. I think, you know, it's one of the brands that 100%, you know, applies equally to both men and women. And, you know, the customers, you know, they reflect that. I mean, you see them always wearing like very much, you know, all the pieces pretty much from his collection, you know, both boys and girls can wear.
Do you find lots of women buy?
Oh yeah, 100%. You
I'm
know,
not
equally,
surprised.
actually it's equally both men and women that they buy like Craig Green, because actually you can wear all these pieces. I mean, what is really amazing with Craig's collection is that it gives the freedom to the customer, I think, you know, to put these pieces in a much different way. So, you know, it's up to the customer to style these pieces as they wish, and they can put them, you know, in a much different ways. Which lots of customers really enjoy doing that, because you can go like for the full on look, but then when you touch as a collection and you know you start seeing like separately the pieces, you know, you can actually put them on with so many different ways, which makes it very interesting.
Yes, even the pieces in this last show that came on at the end, they had these pieces which were like the front of the trouser and then the back was just the tapes.
Yeah.
But you know, as a boy, you could wear that with leggings underneath or something. There's so many ways you could wear that. And they're very adaptable.
I think what's the best about him in a way is that it's this paradox, right? You've got incredibly wearable, adaptable clothes, and you've got the whole theatrics of the show, which I think works really great.
And I think they're really wearable also because they're very inclusive of any body type, any silhouette you can have. Because of the strings, and the cup tend to be a bit boxy, but also quite flowy. I think it's something you feel like you can just go pick up in a shop, wear it, and it will work. You don't necessarily need to have the body that kind of like you conceived for it. So it makes it more welcoming.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think that's true. That's a good dichotomy, isn't it, for a young designer
100%.
to have wearable clothes that people can recognise, they can make their own, but you still have a bit of liveliness, colour coming through, because there are so many fashion shows. You want a bit of liveliness, you want a bit of fun, you want a bit of drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing about this collection was that it was color. You know, I mean, he came back to a collection with actually color. Because his Autumn in the 16 collection, you know, it was more like on the khakis and, you know, these amazing bronzes and, you know, the stripes. It was very specific, but now, you know, he came back to like lots of pattern actually, which was really amazing, all these pieces. And then, you know, he did like all these like beautiful kind of like faded, you know, colors, which was really, really beautiful, very interesting.
And some of the, we can see on the monitors, some of the pieces which are printed and then sort of sectioned and stitched in, they are sort of Indian, but they're also slightly Portuguese. So you think of Goa or somewhere like that, you know, that mix of culture, like tiles, like Portuguese tiles, but then fused into, you know, an Indian sensibility.
So Stavros, do you think it will work well for his buyers, this current
I think
collection?
so. I really think so, because, you know, it gives, I think someone like Craig, you know, gives lots of options to the buyers to actually create their own unique stories within, you know, this collection. And this is something very, very important, because obviously when you're a buyer, you're going to think your own store and your own customers, but also you're going to think about the rest of the stores that are selling the same brand. And so it gives you quite a bit of freedom actually to select and make a selection where it's going to apply to your own customers, and then another store can make a completely different selection. Of course, you know, this is a show and you saw like lots of layering and lots of pieces, you know, but again, when you see them separately, you know, I can see so many different options for people to go for. And for the customers, all the fabrics, he's always extremely smart in, you know, in the way that he's using the fabric. So they're not too heavy, they're not too light, so they can apply in actually quite in lots of different environments, you know, in lots of different countries, you know. So I think that this collection is going to be one of the most successful ones commercially, also because he just got an amazing award, which is the GQ award, which I think came on a really, really right time for his brand. And I think that the great, I think, panel that they had on GQ award, they identify all this and they saw the potential of Craig, and, you know, it was coming in the right moment, you know, to get that push that you need as a brand. Build your backup business, you know, build, you know, your production facilities, build your studio, you know, around it, and support this. So I think it is a collection that he celebrates all this. I think it's he's very confident with his collection, and he did an excellent job.
And some of the pieces were almost like trench coats, weren't they?
Yeah.
So there's a kind of conventionality there that can appeal to a certain customer. And still the workwear ethic going on.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So Alex actually wanted to ask you, because you spent quite a bit of time in Central St. Martin's and editing one granary and so on. So how do students in Central St. Martin's do they look up to examples like Craig Green? Is it a success story for them?
I think Craig Green is really a success story for students, because he's managed to become a success, both critically, economically, with his price, and I think also he's managed to do that without ever kind of like letting go of his vision of what made his brand and himself so special.
Yeah.
So I think they really look up to that. I think actually it's been quite influential for a lot of fashion students, even for some art students actually. A lot of the silhouettes he pushed, a lot of the kind of like fragile masculinity he pushed, I think I've really caught on. And so I think, he's like someone students really look up to, students really kind of like want to emulate in terms of career paths, which I can understand.
Yes, I mean, it's difficult for a young designer to start off. We were talking
good.
before about all the young designers starting off cutting out on your kitchen table, and, you know, people imagine that they have sort of phalanxes of lackeys behind them, but in fact they're working 3 people, you know, a load of interns. But, you know, it's that passion that makes people want to go ahead and design, and to keep designing at that level. So intricate, but becoming more commercial. It's really very admirable, and I'm sure he's a huge inspiration. An inspiration not just for his style, because everybody at St. Martin's has their own style, but for a model of how to make things work. And it is very difficult to run your own business. I know that a lot of people at St. Martin's are talked about, oh, this person, that person starts their own business, but that's a very tiny minority, in fact, of students. Most of them go off and work in the industry. To run your own business, you have to be so, you have to have people want to help you. You have to have the sort of personality that people will work all night for you for nothing. You have to have people who admire your style, your creativity, but also your work ethic, and be, you know, as I said, very genuine. And I think it's rare, the person who can do that. Some people start, maybe it works for 2 or 3 years, and then it, you know, unfortunately people don't get enough backing, there's problems, financial problems, but I'm so pleased for Craig that but I'm not really surprised.
I think community is something he always stresses how important it is for him, his team, and the whole. That's actually, I think I read an interview where he said he's inspired by workwear, religious wear, partly because it's also about community. So it's kind of good to see this on the conceptual level and on the practical level.
But what is also really amazing is that Craig, actually in a recent interview as well, but in his previous interviews, and he has joined a number of designers that actually say the reality of things and how difficult things are, you know, and try like to make people understand that, you know, perhaps a perception that, you know, a brand or a designer that is successful press-wise, also with sales and everything, they have a really big team behind them, you know, support them, you know, have sorted out the production facilities and everything. That's not actually what is real happening. And they're coming forward and they say, no, we're a very small team of people that we manage to do really great things because we're working extremely hard and we have like a vision that we really truly believe in. And that, I think, gives a massive amount of inspiration to other people, you know, younger people, that they want also to do something similar. He's very smart in doing that, and I appreciate always that whenever he talks, he always never forgets to mention all the people around him, which is something extremely important. Great. Even in his in the position that he's right now, he could say, "Oh yes, of course, it's all about me," but it's he always manages to put, you know, Helen, you know, Angelos, Barbara, everyone that is surrounding his brand, you know, put them on the front line, which is something very sweet.
And I think the complexity of the sample pieces we see here, you know, is extraordinary. The finesse of the stitching, the cutting, the accessory parts. I mean, they're really complex. You know, to have those samples made to that level is really quite remarkable, I think.
And it's also it's a bit stressful, I think, for him to deliver so good collections season after season after season.
Yeah, of course. It doesn't become a second album,
yes,
you know.
Yeah, you know, he put he put the level so high for himself. You know, all the standards so high that I remember. You know, we all remember.
Stressful to maintain,
I don't know if any of you were on that show that, you know, everyone actually started crying pretty much. You know, which it was a unique experience for the people in that room. But after that, as a designer, you think, okay, we're moving now. You know, what is the next thing for us? Because what is going to be the next show and what people, you know, expecting from us to do? So that puts a massive pressure, I think, to designers like Craig, and they have to be very well balanced and very focused on knowing, you know, what the brand is about and deliver, you know, always really strong collections.
So what I'm really interested in discussing as well is. I see Craig Green as a really good example of sort of pushing the fashion and particularly menswear forward in kind of couple of aspects. This is the genderless, which we discussed, but also I think is the seasonless clothes. So do you agree that his clothes kind of, I mean, I think he said himself that he's never been interested in fashion as something which goes season to season. For him it's more of a statement,
organic.
show, of like an inspiration. So do you agree that seasonless is the future? Is it the way to go for young brands particularly?
I mean, there is some seasonal trappings in what you do. I mean, there tends to be new colors, new patterns, new quilting kind of introduced every season. But I think it's really showed that behind that is like a really consistent line. So I'm not really sure how seasonless I would want to call its brand, but I think it definitely has a potential to kind of, as a style, really transcend like one show or the other.
I think in both menswear and women's wear, things are much more seasonless now than they were, say, 10 years ago. You know, I don't think, you know, the idea of the season is quite old-fashioned, really. It's sort of suggests that we always have to dress up warmly in the
Yeah.
winter. So we all go put on bikinis in the summer. Well, with world climate change, that's not necessarily the case, and also people's lives are different, aren't they? Especially people buying high fashion.
Yeah, also you buy a piece,
Yes.
you buy it in
Yes,
summer, you wear it
yes,
in winter.
yes.
It's like completely
Exactly,
completely
you
different.
layer it in the winter.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I think it's personal. You know, you're talking about, you know, the seasonal changes for colour, and of course that's really important to the individual. But you know, that's just it's like an organic development, isn't it? And it comes from whatever is your inspirations. You know, whether it's a particular poem you hear, or you know, a holiday you go on and you suddenly see some amazing fuchsia pink. You know, it sort of moves on. But I'm glad to see him coming back to some of those very bright colours that almost military or something like that, super bright. And then we saw the really pale, ice creamy custardy versions, the same style but the colours muting. And I understand that originally he started off with like fluorescent colours and then it already worked, but he hated it. So they bleached them and then they shrank and then they started again. Oh yes, the ones we can see there. Those are the more brighter ones, like beige and then brights, but then they come to lovely beautiful pinks and oranges and
a bit more
terracottas.
faded ones,
Yeah.
Yeah, like this
the
one,
one
for
on the
example.
right, yeah,
But
that's
this one
gorgeous.
in the middle.
And I love that sort of apron effect, high up, tying the coat, which would look great on a girl as well.
100%.
Yeah, I think so. It's a great transition actually to looking into the collection. So shall we look at it from the beginning? You both were at the show. So
Yes.
could you tell us a bit of the atmosphere of the show? Because I mean, it's always a big thing for him, the music and the vibes and stuff. How was it?
I mean, do you want to go first?
I just
Ask
felt
your
it was
experience.
very calm. The beginning, the sort of ambient music was really calm at the beginning, and I'd felt quite stressed. So I was really happy to sit down and be calm. And then it carried on. It was sort of a warmth I felt from the music. It didn't impose, but it was just sort of warm and melodic, and it moved through. I didn't really notice it after a bit, to be honest, but I felt it was very nice, relaxed atmosphere in the room. Friendliness, actually, which you don't always have in a fashion show. There's lots of pushing and shoving, stress.
It was definitely a crowded show.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yes, that's true.
Of course, it's one of the biggest highlights of LCM, so of course everyone is going to make sure that they are there and want to see the show. And I completely agree with you. It had like a very nice feeling into it. But I think also all his shows are kind of like that way. You know, the music together with the clothes and the collection are floating so beautifully and calmly and relaxing, and it's nothing something that stresses you out or your eyes go straight into the clothing, and it kind of like travels you know, wherever you want to go at that moment. I think also the show was styled by Robbie Spencer, who actually styled his previous show as well. And I think that is really great, because I think definitely someone like Craig has a very strong vision, so it's very specific in the way that, you know, he wants to put things together.
Yes.
But then it's great that you bring someone else, you know, someone else's vision as well, and they help you with like the styling and the boys and the casting and, you know, everything around the clothes. And I think it was great because Craig's pieces speak for themselves, so they need a very specific way to be shown. So it was a lovely show.
The boys were great too, the models.
Yes, all the casting I think was like
lovely,
excellent and beautiful.
Some really androgynous, some really boyish, and then some kind of more masculine looking, but a really good combination. And I loved the accessories, the sort of disembodied hoods that actually were sometimes tucked into the collar, sometimes just standing out, but they give a real sort of atmosphere of mysticism.
Yeah, he certainly likes that, doesn't he? The religious.
Yes,
the religious
yes. But sort of practical as well.
Yeah,
Really good.
Definitely.
Do you sell many accessories?
Yes, I mean, especially with the hoods that you were talking about, I mean, it's something that, something similar that he did on his previous season as well and I think it's kind of it starts becoming one of his like trademark pieces, you know, with the boys with the hoods, you know, being covered almost like the whole face. And actually people, you know, adore, you know, to get into accessories, because it's it's actually something very simple that you can put on you
Yeah,
and change the whole
yeah,
outfit.
exactly.
Basically, you can go for something extremely simple, and then
Exactly.
you have like this detachable hoods that you can have on. And I saw like all these pieces, you know, the way that, you know, all these belts as we see now in these looks, you know, that you see across the bodies, and it's really beautifully made. You know, I think he's very strong in accessories. And last season he did like quite a lot of, I mean, sorry, when I'm saying last season, it's Autumn Winter 16, which is coming in stores, but last season as Autumn Winter 16, that he did quite a lot of like leather bags. And, you know, it was, again, that idea, he started like slowly developing that idea of getting like the ropes around, you know, the leathers, and through like the hooks and everything. So it's nice to see that this passed actually onto the actual clothing now as a detail, which is really, really great.
I think it's very interesting that the hood is sort of such a sort of street. It's a really street thing, isn't it? The hoodie, the whole like closed face. It has a really sort of not always positive connotation. I kind of enjoy how he takes it into a completely different, almost gallery like, almost art-like environment. You know, like
It's because it's
completely
not a
detached.
menacing hoodie, is it? And it's
No,
not kind of, we've already
different.
seen that a million times. It's because it's disembodied, it's got a sort of almost Boy Scoutness about it. So, I mean, kind of a bit serious.
But
And-
he seems to work quite a lot with very menacing kind of symbols that he makes, maybe more fragile. Like he had those armors in that show Everybody Cried For that look like samurai armors or like something an American footballer would wear.
Yes.
So I think is what I'm really liking the show in terms of gender, like you were saying, is that he really uses a lot of tropes of masculinity but makes them really soft and really Boy Scouty, like each child.
Yes.
A bit silly, which is quite nice.
I wish he had girls though again, because I really enjoy. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
of
me,
course.
right?
No,
It's
I mean,
nice
it's
to
many
see-
girls probably had the
Yeah,
same thought as
it
you.
just was nice to see in that. Was it one show? In that one show, he had women as well, and that one specifically was really sort of It was a lot of challenging masculinity, right, and gender in general, because it has those like breast cutouts and those other cutouts. It was pretty great. So yeah, but I mean, it doesn't cancel out that this one is great, but I guess it's just a different narrative.
Yeah.
So coming back to the newest collection, did you have like any favorites? Any favorite looks?
I think I'm going to struggle so much as a buyer, you know, like to go through this collection. I mean, I have a feeling that it's going to be a very challenging and difficult job, because there's so many good products to select from. So I think that, you know, as I said in the beginning, it's a great choice for all the buyers, basically, because they can create their own stories and have like completely different merchandise through the stores. And I think this is what buyers actually really enjoy doing.
They're so layered. Would you be
Yes.
buying into several looks?
Yes, probably.
Or deconstructing some of them?
Well, both, because customers, but there are the type of customers that they really enjoy to go for the full look as they see it on the catwalk, and they want like to be head to toe on Craig, which is great.
That's very like, you wouldn't expect that, to be honest.
I mean, if you see around, I think that there were lots of people that I see, you know, head to toe with Craig, you know, wearing Craig, and it's more kind of a statement, you know, and it's but I don't find it difficult to go out, you know, on a full look, you know, because he has managed to do his things about, you know, it's also like a uniform, you know. His collection is a bit of a uniform. So when you think about a uniform, you think about both pieces basically, or, you know, covering the whole body, and he's like very good in doing that because he can keep a fine balance through it. But I also think that, you know, there are like lots of different pieces, especially the coats, outerwear. I can see this, you know, being extremely popular among the customers, and I think it's going to be a great collection.
I think some of my favourites, which are the multi-layered apron ones, either in the vibrant colours or the very soft colours, they're my favourites on the catwalk. But if I was imagining, you know, people to be wearing them, I think that I would imagine that it would be easier to wear the simpler ones that you could put together with your own or clothes you had already. I mean, that's the difference between making a statement on the catwalk and what people wear in the street, especially for menswear.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, some of these looks are just, they are the epitome of what I want to see on the catwalk. But I would think there would be not many men who would actually wear that in the street.
I mean, again, it really depends, because from my personal experience, when you visit Craig's showroom, for example, the way that the collection is being presented is in a completely different manner from what is on the catwalk, because it's obviously for, they have completely different purposes.
Yeah.
So the showroom presentation of Craig is, again, extremely interesting one, because the way that the collection has been layered is like in a very, very different manner, kind of dividing into I don't know if they're going to do the same thing for this season, but I'm guessing that they will do, creating already the stories for you and how you can actually buy, throughout, the colorful pieces or, the kitted pieces or the leather pieces or anything. And I'm also guessing that because there is quite a lot of layering going on these colorful pieces and outfits, I think that when they're going to be similar with byproduct, then I think that they're going to be like lots of items that customers would want to buy, because perhaps that would be the thing that everyone is going to pick up for the next season. Because if price jumps on them, and which I'm pretty sure that in terms of editorials, it's going to be quite a lot of photographs of those colorful items. So, and there are like many customers that are buying what they see on magazines, what they're going to see on actually being everywhere on social media. If that is going to be picked up, then I see that the sales on these items are going to go very high.
Because some of the previous collections we talked about were slightly more muted.
Yes.
Can see those easily on anybody. That's not a problem. But it's quite nice when you have your visual impact on a catwalk to have more colour. But something like we're looking now at the one which is and I would call the Portuguese tiles one. That's really wearable.
It's
actually,
very nice.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So what was your favorite, Alex?
I really like the really coloured silhouettes. Also the quite slightly faded one, because it seems even in the I agree with you. I think people will tend to maybe buy or wear the most simpler one. But I think if you look closely, even those really coloured ones, like pieces like the trousers or just the shirts, like tend to be really simple. Like I feel like we're probably going to see those trousers everywhere. We're going to see loads of pieces everywhere. And I really like the faded looks, because I think what I really enjoy about Craig Green is that a lot of his pieces, even though they're so designed, tend to feel quite timeless. There's something about them.
Absolutely. It would be an investment piece, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you could wear it in 10 years.
Yes, yes.
And the faded one look like they've kind of been found at like the back of a closet somewhere, and someone's found them in a crazy
possibly in Natalie Gibson's closet.
Probably.
Print tutor, etc.
It's a shame, kind of a shame that we're looking at just looking at the images. In terms of, because Craig's clothes is great also in the way it moves and the way how it works as a 3D piece. And I like what you mentioned about how they bleached them, how they shrunk and so on. So I'd really love to sort of see the texture, touch it and so on.
But that's the sort of thing with a young designer, small company that you don't know about, but it's happening all the time. You order the fabric, you can't afford to order as much in the colour you want, so you have to dye it, and then it goes wrong. And, and 3 nights you've been not sleeping, and you're still trying to put the bloody thing together, and it is all heartache and problems backstage. I mean, I haven't heard this from Craig, I'm just imagining it, but I know how these things work, and so it's absolutely a tribute that somebody who's only been really out of college for 4 years.
So we can actually
is doing
kind of
such
see
great
a little
work.
bit the way we can actually see a little bit. I mean, who hasn't been to the show? The way it moves, and I mean, I think it's just amazing the way his clothes works in movement.
Just to go back really quickly on the dyeing of the fabric, I think it's something else where he's really been a model for students, because I know he posted on Instagram when he did all those like very big tie-dye t-shirts. How everything was
with this
everybody was how everything was like tie-dyed in his studio, like doing knots, and he kind of like showed that even if he had a lot of expectations on him and he was delivering amazing collections, he really came to kind of like handmade stuff on the kitchen table. I think that's really powerful for students to know and to see happening.
I mean, it shows completely how he, again, like tie-dye has not the best connotation of fashion. It's like, it's really like, who would wear that? Most of the people would tell you. But you see how he manages to take the thing which stuff you would never imagine wearing and then turn it into something incredibly desirable, which is like, I guess this is how fashion should work.
Inspiration.
Yeah, you
yes.
create something
yes.
like people would never imagine wearing
yes.
it 2 seasons ago, and suddenly everybody wants it.
It's desirable, absolutely.
Yeah. What is also interesting, I think, I already mentioned sort of the movement of the clothes, that I think Craig mentioned a few times that he is really focused on craft and how he is sort of anti-digital, how he basically anti that 2D representation of clothes, which we're so used to. So do you think generally the fact that we see clothes as images these days rather than pieces, do you think it's a problem for the industry, or do you think it's just the way it goes?
I think it's probably quite a loss for students to be just looking everything up on Google, and swiping through to look at this collection, that collection, and not really touching and holding and feeling clothes. I think that is a shame. I mean, there's places like the V&A, the Cloth Workers Institute, which is sort of behind Olympia, is such a wonderful resource for people to go and look at vintage clothing, and to really, anyone can go there and have it displayed for them as long as they give them enough notice, or to go to, vintage shops, or to just look, in markets, to see how things are made, and to see details like fastenings, pockets, flaps, things that are very important, particularly in menswear, to do with those little details that make all the difference. I think if you just look, because you can't really see in these photos what you could perceive on the catwalk of the layers, say the quilting, the layers, the fastenings, the ties, the rivets through which the ties go, and how some of them are relaxed and open and some are tight, and you sort of wonder, okay, could I actually lace that coat up completely and wear it in a sort of conventional way? How much do I want to unlace it, a bit like you lace your shoes? And I think that definitely we should all be getting hands-on.
I notice, because I spend, of course, quite a lot of my time on the shop floor, and I notice that so many students actually are visiting, from CSM, from RCA, from LCF, they're coming in the store, and they actually, as part of the assignments, or, as part of themselves actually, learning a bit more about clothes and looking at what other designers are doing and how they're producing things. And it's great because you can spot immediately the student, because they're going to see a garment like in a completely different manner from like a proper customer that walks in. They will turn it around. They want to see like the seam. They want to see like how it's done. Which is really amazing. To see them, and lots of times, especially when I have time, but also the rest of the people in the store, we sit down and we start discussing and chatting about designers and about brands, and they ask me about pricing and how. Quite a lot of things, and I completely agree with you. I think that they should go and do this way more often, and coming like in very close with the feeling of garments. But I don't also blame them that they have to go through all this, because they're going through a completely different generation. They're going through a completely different era and game at the moment. This I think that they have. These students that are graduating now, they have great opportunities from one side, but then from the other side, they have such a big challenge, to prove themselves, because the competition is way bigger. The amount of information is way bigger and so much quicker. And perhaps, these are just some tools to use them, in their own benefit, but definitely they shouldn't lose that personal touch with what a garment is about, what a collection is about, and make a research in completely different manner, perhaps.
And the benefit, obviously, of worldwide communication is that you can look at somebody's collection in Shanghai or Omsk or Latin America and be aware of what people are doing, new cultures and fusions, and that's great to have that knowledge.
Yes.
But I don't think it can anyway replace for your own heart and soul when you are researching, because it needs to be tactile. Don't know what you think, Alex.
No, I really agree, and I think especially for Craig Green, because even if you're a customer for Craig Green, I feel like that's really hard to forget when you see clothes on social media, when you see them on Instagram. is that someone's going to have to wear them at the end. And I feel like when you see the show, even on the craziest pieces, they all have pockets, they all have ways to close them if it's windy. Like, I know Craig wear his own clothes, and it kind of shows like this, everything is kind of conceived so that if you buy it, you could wear it as you'd wear a normal coat, as you wear simpler pieces. I think that's something that's really important, and he's managed to have both kind of like really strong social media moment, very impactful graphics, but you feel like if you took the piece home, you could put your phone in the pocket, which is kind of important in the end.
Yeah, it's really well pointed out, I think.
Yeah, there's like pockets here. It's great.
So yeah, I mean, that's what I love about his stuff, is that I mean, it's kind of a paradox again, actually, in a way, because it's the craft, but also it's the presentation, which really, as well, carries you away completely. So yeah, I guess it's one of his signature traits, isn't it? Of taking something completely practical and something completely ephemeral and putting them together. But I think craft is something which is really, I think it is really important to stress it now in fashion, that, I mean, how things are made, how they should be made, how much work actually goes into that. Because, I think that's what people need to know.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think that actually customers, I mean, I'm keep talking about customers because perhaps this is what I know best, but I mean, it is, and we mentioned that before quite a lot of times in this panel, it is an investment, you know, like, I mean, lots of customers are seeing fashion as an investment, so they would put the money into something that is going to last, is going to be there for like long time, and they can wear it again and again. It's not going to be one-off thing, you know, being on the wardrobe. So I think this is what Craig is really great about, because actually, you know, if you have like a jacket of his, you know, from 4 years ago, you still can wear it, and you know, it still looks extremely current and easy. You know, and that's something very, very important.
I mean, if from the sustainable point of view, that's how all fashion should be. Something you buy, that you invest in, and that you'll keep forever. They're the opposite of fast fashion, and you know, somebody like Craig is a huge exponent of that, really. I mean, I think at Central St Martin's we do very much respect craft. You know, there's a lot of, obviously, pathways like fashion print and fashion knit are all about craft, but then, you know, in menswear, womenswear, they're all interested and can focus on that as much as they want to. And in fact, actually, as I left the studio today, I was looking at, there's a girl who's doing the Grayson Perry project in the second year, and she's embroidering huge teddy bears. Obviously, Alan Measles is about that big, all in beautiful, some sort of still, but some lame threads. And I was admiring them, and she said, "Oh, but actually, this is going to be a lace. It's on one of those dissolvable fabrics." They're about like, so they're going to be lace Alan Measles. And you know, this is just a second year project where she's working on. She's got to deliver it in 2 weeks' time. But the huge amount of effort they put into it, you know, that you have to love it.
I think in a way it's a reaction, isn't it? Like, because how we work, how we live, it's all digital, it's all really instant. So I think people if not now, in a few years, people will start thinking, what am I actually doing with my life? Have I done anything with my hands ever in my life before?
I've forgotten how to write.
Exactly. So I think particularly on people who work in creative industries, and particularly on something as practical as fashion, that's really something what's...
Yes, I don't know about you young people, but I draw, but I'm actually finding it difficult to handwrite now. Because I got so used to typing, you know, essays or whatever I have to do, and comments and thoughts. And, you know, you can lose your handwriting. You know, I have difficulty sort of wobbling all over, and I think, what on earth is that? Do you have problems?
I do.
I can't handwrite anyway.
That's
I mean, I can read myself, but no one
it
else
kind
can.
of changes
Yes.
all the time you try. It's like,
You all have to practice every night for 20 minutes.
We go back
Me
to,
too.
you know, when we're 6 years old, you know, like how to
So
practice.
what do you think, Alex, as a representative of a young generation?
As a
about
representative of the young generation,
Yeah.
I would definitely agree there's a really big appetite for craft and for handmade things and for things that kind of have a lot of work hours and a lot of care put into it. I know when we put pictures on Instagram of anything that's hand embroidered or there's like little details that were definitely handmade, it's like everybody loves it. I think people just... I mean, there's something about the fact that you know that someone spent time caring about the object that I think adds value that you can't really get otherwise. I think, but I don't think we need to like fetishize kind of like the craft aspect too much. But I think what people like Craig show is that there's some effect can get with craft you can't really get with anything else. I think like there's something very impressive about it, and very dear to the young generation. I'm not sure I can speak as a.
Well, you can have contemporary and modern craft as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of fusing through lasers and all sorts of different finishes that are very popular.
I have like a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, because you have been so legendary, and I mean, I think people like owe you such a massive thank you, for everything that you have contributed in fashion. Do you all know when you see them on the first year, or you have like
Oh, that's
to see
a really
them,
interesting topic.
like I mean, I always wanted to ask this question, and I was thinking about that. Is it something that slowly you get there, or you kind of understand a bit that someone is unique and
it's
special?
kind of yes and no.
Yeah.
Some people seem uniquely talented right from the word go, but some do not and struggle, but they flourish in the final year. And it's wonderful to see both those. There's sometimes somebody who's really having difficulty in the first and the second year, and we're all clutching our hair and going, what on earth's going on? And then suddenly in the final year, especially after they've been a year out in industry, they really get it.
Yeah.
And they do a beautiful collection.
Yeah.
And I think, people always ask that, do you know? And no, you don't. I mean, yes, sometimes people are a dream from the word go, but I can think, I'm certainly not going to say who, but I can think of people who really drove me mad in the first year, but by the final year were producing amazing work and really dedicated and finesse, care of detail. And I think it's just you mature, and then when they go on in the MA they can mature and move into a slightly different direction as Craig did. But it's a progress, and I think that's good. If everybody was great on the first day, you might as well just okay, right? It's just
But I think it's so difficult in fashion how success is made from so many different elements, starting from education to, as you mentioned, running a business, which is a whole different...
Well, that's a different skill.
And then basically you've got showing the clothes versus selling it, and I just can't imagine why do people still go for it.
I mean, we do get stick at St. Martin's for why are we not running business side, Actually, hello, we have 3 years, we have limited resources, we pack in everything we can into those 3 years to teach those students to be the designers that we want them to be. We could do another 3 years and still not have covered it. Now, business is interesting, and certain people will leave and have the acumen to do it themselves and the skills. We familiarise themselves with business through sponsored projects in the second year, and of course most of them do the year out where they learn a lot. But actually, the student at St. Martin's votes with their feet, and if they don't find, we have tried in the past to do sort of special business seminars and things, or standalone. And if they don't like it, they just don't go. So it's a waste of resources. So we try to put it all within a project. And then certain, are just have the skills when they leave, and others learn. But we are starting now to have, in our final week, sort of seminars on the sort of things you'd like to know if you do want to run your own company, from, how to work with banks, and all that stuff, which students don't find really fascinating to begin with. And then we've got graduates coming in, like Charles Jeffrey and Richie Malone and people like that, who actually talk about what they wished they'd known. Because I think that's important. What did you wish you'd known? I wish I'd known this, that, and the other. And then that will be something that will be really meaningful to students. So I think we can make those little steps, but we're still teaching them to be designers. If they want to do a business course, they have to go to a different college or do it afterwards.
So, what is the future like for Craig Green, do you think? How does it look to you?
Bright.
Yes.
I think he hasn't had a weak collection from the start, I'd say. I think he's really kind of been on a course, an incredible course, and iterating on what he's doing each season, adding new pieces, adding new colours, adding new ideas. So, I don't know what the ceiling is for him. So it'd be really impressive to see what he does next. I don't know.
Absolutely, I think he's wise actually. I think he's got a good business sense.
I think so too. I think that the way that he has done his setup around him, he's got very good people around him. Also, to help him, make his vision reality. But he also is someone that he's got a very, very clear vision. And this is, I think, something that is very important to every single designer, that you don't see them getting confused as the year progress. And you're going to hear lots of voices and lots of people, sharing your opinion with them. And,
Wow,
if you
yeah,
start
that's
if you start listening to everyone, because I've seen it happening, you get into that place that you don't know what you're doing. And you can see that the confusion can go very easily on a catwalk show, and you can see very confused collection that doesn't make any sense in the end, because normally happens to designers that they start listening to lots of people's opinion around them. And I think Craig has very smartly, has his vision. He knows the people that he trusts around him, and he goes just for that. And I'm sure lots of people have expressed their opinions throughout these 4 years, the real positive ones, because he has been one of the designers that has been really celebrated. And then he had a bit more like the harsh criticism as well. But I think that he takes the best out of the both, and he moves forward with not really doing anything wrong, but actually he's doing the best thing season after season after season. So I think he's going to go extremely well.
He's grounded and genuine.
Very much.
So it is difficult when you listen to many different advices, but I think he's going to stick on his own ground.
Good.
Great. I think it's a great note on which to finish. Amazing panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much for having us.
Very good.